Hey everyone, so we had unfortunately an audio issue on my end and it ended up getting fully recorded on my camera instead of my microphone. So I just want to jump in and say in this episode of this podcast, I apologize for the audio quality here. It will not happen again in the future episodes. Please bear with us and I hope you still enjoy the episode even if the audio is kind of scuffed. Thank you so much and hope you still enjoy. Welcome, everyone, to Galactic Ambition, a Star Wars Unlimited podcast, part of the Maindeck podcast family. I'm Dan.
And I'm Jason, and it's been a while. You know that song?
Yeah, I do.
It's like that song. Great. So we won't mention it so we don't get sued or something. But it's been a minute.
Yeah, it has been. It's been tricky. Scheduling has been really tough lately. There were some pretty, I was at Grand Archive Worlds. I was casting for that, and that took.
That was awesome, though. I know we're a Star Wars podcast, but you and everybody there rocked it. That was such a cool event. So I was glad you were able to take a part of that.
Yeah, thanks. It was a really fun event. It was extremely cool. It makes me extremely excited for getting to get together with the community of Star Wars Unlimited when we finally get more of those events. Which, by the way, Jason, Gen Con, yeah. Gen Con events are live, and a lot of Star Wars events, a lot of Star Wars events throughout the weekend. Let's actually, we didn't plan this, but can we talk about that for a little bit?
We should.
I think we should, because I have some things to say about this. I have some interesting things to say. So, first of all, for those who aren't aware, Gen Con is the biggest tabletop gaming convention in North America, not quite the world, but in North America. And it is a pretty big deal. It's a pretty huge event every year. It costs a pretty penny to get into. Tickets these year were like what, like $135 or something? Somewhere around there. Yeah. They were
for a 4-day badge.
Not like cheap, for sure. And these events, then you still also have to pay to get into. So it's the kind of convention where there are, like, every TCG that is doing anything is going to be there in some capacity. Basically, it's usually not one that a TCG company wants, not a convention they want to miss out on, because there are just so many people. I remember the attendance last year. In my head, 60,000 there, but that might be from a couple years ago. 60, 70,
at least 70,000.
At least 10.
At least 10 people.
There were at least 10
people there.
It
was massive. And you kind of touched on it, but every card game that's a card game for the most part, even things that you've never heard of and didn't even want to know to hear of, will be there.
Yeah. That definitely games you didn't want to know about.
I have a couple. That's not for this podcast. We can do a supporter one.
Patreon podcast.
We can talk about the orcs. Anyway.
Yeah. That'd be fun. But the, Star Wars Unlimited last year was just doing like kind of open demos. Yeah. People could get in line and get their copies of Luke and Vader and everything, play the game. This year, there are tons of Learn to Play events, but also tons of booster drafts and tons of pods, Twin Suns, and Premiere, as well as some large events. Now, a number of events are sold out at this point. I'm looking through right now. I'm seeing large events sold out, Learn to Play sold out. There are still pods open for Premiere and Twin Suns at different times. I think all the sealed. There's still a couple sealed, actually.
I was looking earlier because I couldn't get some of the stuff last week when the events went live. I was looking this week at maybe spending a little more, and there's still some stuff out there, but a lot of the stuff is full, and it filled very quickly, obviously. And not as an aside, for those who don't know how the Gen Con event queue works, is 12 o'clock, the big green button, you can hit it, and you hit it and you get a number assigned to us. And it's the same thing. We all kind of sweat it out together in our chat. And the common joke is Florida internet, because I always seem to get like this year I was ready. So I'm at work, and I was starting my Pokemon event because Sunday is Pokemon Day. And I'm like, all right, guys, I'm not doing anything at 12. I'm going to stand right here at the computer. I'm just going to press this button, then I'm going back to work. And I press it, and I'm like, oh, I feel pretty good about it. I go turn back. I start taking some entries, whatever. I look back, and I see I'm like 8,400. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. I had to press that on like frame 0. And this year, too, I think a lot of us kind of got rocked. As opposed
I was
to last
in
year.
the 7,000s. We had one person in our group who was like, I'm 300. Like, okay.
Wow.
Congratulations.
Yeah, but so you have to hope you sweat through that to get to the events you put on your wish list, which I think most of us got into pretty much what we were looking to sign up for.
I did. I actually miraculously got into everything, and it was really wild when we got up there. When I got to the front of the queue, I actually told the whole story in the Altered podcast, which releases next week.
Oh,
so
cool.
I'm not going to go into it again just for the people who listen to it multiple times. But the point is, I got to the end. I think I got the last ticket on a couple of events because they went in my card and they said sold out at the same time. But I got the ticket. So it does hold them in your cart for a little bit, and so people can't buy it. So things I think will say it'll like decrease the number to 0 at that point, and then trigger the sold out while you still have the ticket in your cart potentially. So I did get in stuff. Now, I just want to talk about the Star Wars Limited events at Gen Con, because there were just, I don't know, there were some things that I thought were kind of interesting about what they tried to lay out here. So the first thing to mention is that like there is no organized play is not in full swing for Star Wars Unlimited. Organized play is actually very bare bones for Star Wars Unlimited. They have the store showdown events and whatever else.
Whatever you're doing.
That's it.
Locals. That's about it.
Gen Con is a similar situation where there's nothing feeding into anything. There's no like there's only the special card promo card you get is the Grogu, which is I believe just like the current season or the 2024, I'm not sure, convention promo. So like if you can't go to Gen Con, you I think can get Grogu's by going to Essen or going to
I think they've already confirmed it too that it's at another event. But, yeah.
So it's not like there isn't even like a special promo exclusive to the events or anything. It's just you get that Grogu, which people who like Grogu might want to get 3 copies of. Yeah. That's cool. Like I'm not hating on the Grogu, by the way. It's got only 3 fingers, so it's cool. It's got the correct number of fingers. It's
definitely not been a focal point of anyone's discussion when it got revealed again.
Yeah, but I'm not hating on that, but I'm just pointing out that, I do think it's interesting that what they threw together here. Okay, I'm going to come out and say it. I'm not going to dance around it. I find the prizes in these events questionable.
Oh, 400%.
Okay, 400%.
I think we said the same thing when we were kind of kicking that around.
Yeah, and so the big thing here is like, FFG's still figuring out their prize structure and everything, but just coming from my personal experience with other TCG events at Gen Con, I am paying for the ticket. Actually, I'll say I've run TCG events at Gen Con. I've hosted them. For the Metacross TCG, I hosted the last effectively world championship at Gen Con for it. So I'm familiar with getting tables, pricing tickets. I'm familiar with the costs that go into that stuff. Just to preface any potential argument about this, I guess. But like the thing that I just found interesting was that I felt like the prices were, and I don't know why, but higher than they should have been for what you get. Let me illustrate that before we get into the discussion, just to make this make sense. So I'm just going to talk about the 8-player Premier Pod. It's a very simple event. Okay. The 8-player Premier Pod is a single elimination 8-player tournament that players can enter, and they will play in 8-player pods and receive some amount of prizes based on how far they get in their pod. Single elimination meaning 8 people play, then 4 people advance, then 2 people advance, then 1 person wins. That's the end of it. Now, on StarWarsUnlimited.com, they talk about the prizing for these in their news article, I guess, and it just kind of went through all of the prizes for every different event there. Not in great detail, but for the Premier Pods, what it says is that each of these pods take place form of a simple 8-person tournament. Bring your own legal Premier deck. Each game you win in one of these pods will earn you a booster pack. Also, like our other Star Wars Limited events, simply participating in a Premier Pod will earn you a Grogu promo card. Okay. That's cool. I like participation's great. Packs are what you expect to get. The problem I have with this is that this is an 8-player Premier Pod with a ticket price of $18.
Yeah.
So you pay $18 to play in this 8-player Premier Pod. And if you win, you get a pack. And if you win again, you get a pack. And if you win a third time, you get a pack. And then your event's done. Because, again, it's single elimination. Mm-hmm. So you pay $18. And I assume this will be set 2 at this point. Right. But you're going to pay $18 for the possibility of winning 3 packs if you go undefeated in single elimination. And they say it's fast-paced. I assume it's best of 1. I'm not sure. That's not clarified anywhere. But that would be fast-paced. And they say the event is scheduled for a 2-hour block.
So it's got to be best of 1, right?
It has to be best of 1.
Yeah.
I can't. It doesn't make sense for it not to be. So my math on this, Jason, is 8 people paying $18 each for their pod are putting in a total of $146 or $144. And 4 people get 1 pack. 2 people get 2 packs. Sorry. 4 people are going to leave with 1 pack. 2 people are going to leave with 2 packs, and 1 person is going to leave with 3 packs. Is the way to put that. So a total of 11 packs are being doled out for a total entry fee of $144. So less than half a box. It feels it just
feel great. I'll just say and we have to. So I'll play devil's advocate real quick.
Yeah, please.
I don't want to, and just let you know that I'm fully on the side that this is not good.
Well, no, but I want you to because
we need to contextualize this a bit, right?
Yeah.
So it's an $18 event, but we have to think that they paid to be there. So, and they're paying judge staff and they're paying all sorts of people to work for them for all their events they're doing. So if you think about it in that vacuum, there has to be some sort of bottom line, maybe, to not even a rake back, but you got to, when you're putting out, you got to put in input and output. However, other games do this at a much better pricing rate, and those people still get paid for their events and everything else.
Yeah.
And the set will have just been out. So in theory, we should be looking at MSRP pricing in general, because obviously we talk about
in theory.
We hope again,
because right now, if you're like, I'm going to pay $18 and I might win 3 packs, that's like
I'm in.
Of set 1. That's like, okay. Yeah. Like that sounds
we
actually
did our
not bad.
Showdown last weekend. It was $10 entry, and we surprised everybody with a booster pack, and it was like, Christmas. It was like
wow. That's
bringing the ham to everybody. It was crazy. Everybody was freaking out, which was good. That's what we wanted. But unfortunately, that's also not a great thing to have. But that's kind of an aside. But if we're looking at that price point, it's not great EV, or actually, it's not even a good time investment. Yes, you want to play the game, and yes, we want to meet new people, but that's not a very enticing way. Now, we talked about the pods. I know the large event, you can get booster displays, the playmat, and stuff like that. So I think it's a little bit better there, but imagine going through all that just to not even make those cuts, and then you're still looking at a booster pack, 2 booster packs for what? They're like, what? How much was the large event?
The large events cost, that was $36 to enter.
Yeah. Although that playmat is super sick. I don't know if I could do a 6-7 hour event for one, or however long it's going to take.
It says it's 9 hours.
Yeah, although that playmat is super dope. The Mando mat.
Did they show the playmat?
It should have been.
It is. This is the playmat. This picture of Mando.
Yeah.
It doesn't say that though.
It doesn't.
No, it says make it to top 16, and you could also earn yourself an exclusive game mat.
Why would that picture be there at the bottom of it?
Well, it's
That's
just a
not the-
picture.
Yeah, well, okay.
There's a picture of. Okay, it's the Grogu promo above. I get it's fine, but like,
okay, see,
it's
okay. So
I don't know.
I'm
Look,
just
all I'm
talking.
saying,
I'm just talking. So maybe it's that. If it is
all
that,
I'm saying is
would be
that it's
very
not
cool.
confirmed.
Correct. Sure.
Because there's another con where they're giving out the Enfys Nest artwork, and I don't know. It might be different. It might be Enfys Nest. It might be this Mando. If it's the Mando man, it's very sick. But okay, I want to step back because I'm getting a little lost in the weeds.
We're gonna tangent, and this whole episode's gonna turn into that.
That's fine. This is because I forgot that I wanted to talk about this. So
it's a big deal.
But I think you're right. An important part of this to consider is that FFG does have staff to pay, and this I don't know how the space works out for Asmodee in particular, but I do know that table space is $2 a spot basically.
Right.
So it and that you see that factored in where the learn to plays they have listed here as $2.
$2.
Like that's fine. Whatever. That makes that's fine. I don't care. I actually think the learn to plays are the most cost efficient thing to do.
Absolutely. I am.
If you're thinking about that for Star Wars Limited,
teaching some of my friends in some learn to plays this year for sure.
And you're going to go there. You pay $2. You're going to get a Grogu, and you're going to. That's fine.
Have a great time.
I think that's a good deal. But it's even if you look at those large events, the only thing I can like the saving grace is the playmat for the top 16 playmat because Star Wars playmats in general tend to hold value pretty well.
Yeah, no kidding.
They tend to be.
The K2SO mat was as much as it was till we gave one away this weekend.
Yeah.
And then they were talking about the price on the secondary market, and that's the last one we're giving away right now.
I don't even know where you guys got that.
We got it at Gamma. My bosses got it at Gamma.
Oh, your boss went there and
okay, they gave me one before they knew it was $300. So that was cool. So I'm glad I have that.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, let's go. But yeah, so you're right about that. So there's a crazy secondary market value, but also too, I have kind of like a personal thing where you shouldn't leverage the secondary market of pricing into a prize pool payout.
Okay, thank you. That was the next thing I was going to say, which is that whether the Grogu promos are valuable, whether the playmats are valuable, these large events have space for 128 players, and they're sold out.
Yeah.
And each player is putting in $32. So these are getting a total of they're getting $4,000 for the event, and the payout is I believe they're doing are they doing a pack for they're doing a pack per win, which is better in that event because you're probably looking at a maybe like 6-round event, something like that.
Like 4 and 2.
A 6-round event, so you're gonna have the possibility to walk out. If you don't get a playmat, you're gonna walk out with probably 4 booster packs. Top 5 and 1s should probably. I'm doing this really quick math style. 5 and 1s should make it in if it's a 6-round event.
If it's a 16 top, does it say what it's cutting to?
Top 16, yeah.
Yeah, so they should be good.
So 5 and 1 should be 4. So if you're 4-2s where you start like leaving with just the 4 booster packs, and like the thing is, there have to be winners and losers in events. Yeah. Like it's not everyone can't just get the prizes. Like that's not how it works. But generally there's a split where once you get into the top, then you're making back that like more than what you paid. Like it has to be weighted that way so that the higher end is going to get back more than they paid, and then people who didn't top are getting less than they paid.
Right.
Or something like that. And it's only in the top 4 that you get the booster display. So the top 4 are the ones who pay $32 and get the booster display and the playmat. The top 16 get the playmat in like 5 packs, 6 packs, depending. That's fine. Like that's close, right? That's pretty good. If you get 6 packs at MSRP 5 a pack, and your Grogu promo and your playmat. Like that's
is it worth a potential 9-hour investment? Your mileage may vary on that on a personal level. Yeah. I do not see that being great going to Gen Con and spending my time doing that, which is another hidden variable to the whole thing.
Yeah, the time on that. That's the big thing for me. So okay, I want to just make sure that my position is really clear, just to our audience. I am playing in multiple events. I'm in a sealed and a couple of premiere pods. I think that's what I ended up deciding to do, just with the other games I have to put on my schedule as well. And I'm doing these premiere pods, and I'm also giving my true thoughts on them, which is like, I'm doing it mostly to have fun playing Star Wars. I love Star Wars Unlimited.
I want to meet some of the people in the community.
I want to hang out with people. Games. Yep, I just want to, and what I like about those pods is the rapid pace of them. I like that I'm just going to jump in, I'm going to play some, and I'm going to move on with my day. Because Gen Con is a big exhibition of a lot of stuff, and I have devs I want to talk to. I have people I want to hang out with. I have the exhibit hall I want to look through. So it's going to take my time. I'm doing that so for the experience. However, I do feel like the current prize payout they have listed for those events is a bit low. I feel like I agree with you that the large event is probably better, but it's really hinging on that playmat, because if that playmat weren't there, I would feel like only the top 4 getting a booster box for the 4,000 being put in is like, it's not, it doesn't feel like it's quite weighted correctly. For me, for like, and that's where it comes in for that 9-hour event that you're playing in. Like, you're talking, you're taking your entire Gen Con day, the entire 1 day pass value basically of Gen Con, plus your entry fee. And you have to, I feel like, I wish there were, I guess I either wish if they can't just put more packs in or whatever, that's fine.
Yeah. Like, I hope they kind of update the structure a little bit.
But I would like if, when I go to these events, when I played in like regional level events for other card games in the past, it's like promotional stuff like candy. Yeah. It's like, galore. And it's like, and then I leave the event, I only got a few booster packs, but I got all these cool things. And as much as I like the Grogu, like, I would have actually taken a day out to play that large event if they said, also, here are some cool extra promos that are only at our large event or whatever. I would have been like, okay, you got me. Like, I want to, so as for the pods, I think the pods just should have more packs payout, or should have had a lower entry fee or something. It doesn't quite feel like it meshes right for me.
Yeah, I'm pretty much literally on the same wavelength as you. Again, the EV just isn't there. Again, the events that I'm in are really just to kind of jam some games while I'm there, hopefully meet some people, try not to get bodied. It'll be really quick for me if I just lose my first round. And I can go do a ton of stuff in the con, which will probably happen knowing my luck. But really, I think that, and the general feedback I've seen has not been positive about that. About the price structure. So I'm hoping, and again, I think it's something that needs to be said. We're not going to be a podcast that's just going to praise everything.
Yes.
We had that happen when we talked about the market, and then where people were like, there were some specific people that thought we were like Scrooge McDuck in our money tower, like backing the big, that's not what we're here to do. We also need to, we're in this hobby just like you guys. We're in the same hobby space. And it wouldn't be fair if we didn't. I'm glad you did bring this up, because that was kind of burning me up when I saw it. I'm really hoping that the event structure gets a little bit looked at, maybe push a little bit. Who knows? Maybe they'll come out and say, hey, here's some more of the stuff we're going to give away going on at Gen Con. Because again, a lot of people are looking at this as one of the first big bastions of things going on for the event in the US, regardless of FFG thinking that this is the thing, or that's the perception out there for it. This is like the first big shebang, regardless of organized play or not, for a lot of people. So I do think there should be a little bit better of a foot forward on the pricing regard. But other than that, it's still really exciting. I'm still really excited to go there and play a bunch of games.
Yeah, I'm going to have a ton of fun. Like I said, I love Star Wars Unlimited. I'm here to play Star Wars Unlimited. Yes. I'm paying the price. But I think, like you said, the big thing I want to impress is that we're in this podcast, we're going to give you exactly what we think about things. FFG is incredibly kind, and they send us spoilers, and they invite us to cool stuff.
They
and
invite you to stuff.
Okay, well, maybe next time, Jason.
Yeah, anyway,
But please hold that grudge. I love it every time.
It's perfect.
No, we'll but I like to think that they want to do that stuff because we're willing to provide not just our often extremely positive takes on things,
Sure.
but our constructive feedback when there are things that we, passionately also think there could be improvement in, because we want the game to fulfill its possibility of being the best TCG, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. There's a lot more I want to talk about that could be improved upon. That could be a whole episode, especially when it comes to how some of the store showdown stuff went. And I don't want to dig into it, but it's one of those things that if somebody isn't talking about it or bringing it to light, you can't just go in here and be all sunshines and rainbows. You kind of have to talk about the things that need improvement or just aren't working. And I think that this was a surprise that we brought it up, but I'm kind of glad we talked about it because I definitely was really burning me up when this was all announced and I saw the structure. And I'm hoping that there's some change from it. Even if there isn't, at least, we've said our piece, and hopefully it's a good discourse for everybody.
So we'll talk about your store showdown stuff in the future.
For sure. We don't need to talk about that, but it's
in the comments down below, though, if you guys, listeners, have any thoughts on Gen Con, constructive feedback, this is not a place to blast anyone. It's a place to just say, hey, here's what I think. Here's how this makes me feel. Let us know in the comments down below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? I would love to hear your thoughts, and we can have a nice constructive discourse down there, and hopefully our friends at FFG can see that and take, just whether or not they can do anything, whether or not they want to do anything, they can at least have heard it and take it into consideration. And that's the point of this. That's what we're doing. The other thing that we're doing today, Jason, right? We're going to be talking about a million Shadows of the Galaxy spoilers. By a million, I mean a dozen.
Yeah, a lot happened.
Yeah, we have been busy, and since we've been busy with stuff and haven't gotten our last podcast out ever, and just decided to skip it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I had computer issues too, by the way.
It was rough because I was ready, and then your computer was not. So
my computer. I got back from Grand Archive Worlds, and I was like, all right, time to create content. I turn on my computer. It's like, no, blue screens and
absolutely not.
Cool. That's what I wanted when I came back. So that was really sweet. But things are kind of figured out now. I think I actually fried one of my cam links that one of my cameras is hooked up to my computer through. So that was, I don't know. There's been some issues. But the point is, as soon as I give our audience our little pitch for us, we're going to then dive into a bunch of the million Shadows of the Galaxy spoilers that have been revealed since then. We're not going to take forever on these because, number one, there are a bunch of other incredible content creators who've been covering these, who've been spoiling these. That's awesome, and you should definitely listen to their stuff. And you've probably heard these talked about before. But there are definitely things where we just want to get a little bit of our take on things, because I do find that we tend to have some different takes than people. And whether we're right or wrong, I think something worth talking about. And maybe some of these you haven't thought about as much, and maybe you'll find something interesting to listen to there. So that'll be the idea. But first, before we jump into that, I just have to mention, if you do enjoy Galactic Ambition, you enjoy our candid takes on things, you can support us by commenting in the video below, engaging with the video, liking, sharing it with people, 5-starring the podcast on your podcast listening platform. All of that stuff is super helpful for us, and we really appreciate it. So thank you all so much for doing that. And then if you are looking to pick up Star Wars Unlimited singles is the way to go right now. Product is too expensive. But singles are out there for you. TCGplayer.com is where you can go. But instead of just typing in TCGplayer.com, think about your old pals Dan and Jason at Galactic Ambition, and go to bit.ly/shoptcgs. That's bit.ly/shoptcgs, or click our link in the description below to use our affiliate link for TCG Player, and we get a little kickback of what you buy, which is really fun, and it really helps us out. We've had a lot of support, actually. It's been really good. I had to do the math. I have to reverse engineer how much the payment is that we get, and I'm like, wow, this is awesome. Thank you guys so much for doing that. I know you guys are out there, and I know you're using the affiliate link, and I really appreciate it. So thank you. I hope you continue find good deals on TCG Player and support us, because it's really, really helpful for us. So thank you all for that. Now, I'll let you lead the way, Jason. We've got a number of leaders, and we got a bunch of cool cards. I know you were telling me there's a bunch of these you're excited about. There's a bunch I'm excited to talk about too. But how about this? I'll queue up the card because I have the list here, and then you queue up the discussion. All right. Okay. I'm going to talk about we're going to start with one of the leaders I was most excited to see, and one of the most recently spoiled cards. Rey, more than a scavenger.
Nice. So Rey is probably the one I'm most excited to talk about.
Let's start by saying what the card is for our audio, and then we'll dive in.
Cool. So Rey is going to be in Vigilance and Heroism, Force Fringe leader. And Rey has an action of paying 1 and tap, give an experience token to a unit with 2 or less power. So, and Rey will deploy at 6. She will be a 2/6 with Restore 3, which is crazy. And she's going to do the same thing she was doing on her front side, just on attack. So, this card was polarizing for 2 reasons. One, we could get into in a whole hour-long episode, which is people's opinions, on the character itself. And the second is that ability on her and her stat line. Actually, the biggest thing I saw was her stat line. So I'll just go ahead and say my piece real quick. I think this card is awesome. I'm so excited to play this card. I'm so excited to try to play with cards that will synergize with this card, especially a ton of the stuff we've gotten spoiled, which I'm going to I'll segue into Dan on that here in a minute, because Dan's got a card he wants to talk about with her.
Yeah, I do. I really do. I'm so pumped about it.
But so the whole action economy of spending 1, tapping it on her leader side to putting a experience token on a 2 or less power unit kind of reminds you of Luke in that way. With the spending 1, Tarkin kind of style things. So one of the things that I like doing is making sure I spend all my money on the board. I like to spend all my cash. I hate ending my turn with a resource open, 2 resources open, whatever. Yeah. So my aversion to playing 1-drops has been something like, I don't like playing 1-drop units, because on turn 1, if I run a 1-drop unit, if I don't hit a second one, I'm spent with another cash. Rey turns that and lets me spend all my money, so my wallet's empty, so I appreciate that. There are plenty of units already in the game which will synergize well with this. And while it seems kind of innocuous, going from a 2-power threshold to a 3-power threshold is not to be understated. That does a lot. And not to mention, it's most of these 1-drop kind of units are like 1/4s, 2/4, stuff like that. So you get, a 3/5 or something like that. With usually these 1-drop units, especially the new ones, have really neat abilities. That's kind of what I got for the leader side. But the big thing is the Restore 3 on the unit side. Holy moly, that is a lot. That can stop so much bleeding. Yes, it deploys a 6. Yes, it's a 2/6. But understand, once you get that first swing on her, you can make her a 3/7. It doesn't say you can't target her with her ability. So a 3/7 is nothing to sneeze at. Restoring 3 on attack is great. And also, again, I'm a big force throw gamer, so she's a force unit. So we always love to see that. So I've kind of talked about what I said. I'll let Dan talk about a little more, and then Dan can lead into the unit he's pairing with this card as a spoiler.
Yeah, I think this leader's pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm a little unsure. My main point of comparison is Tarkin.
Yes.
Tarkin being a deck that doesn't competitively perform very well. It hasn't really gotten anywhere. Tarkin can put the experience counters on any Imperial unit, where Rey can only put them on a subset of units that only have 2 or less power.
Right.
And I think the weird thing for people to do is compare those two accurately. It feels like Tarkin should maybe be more open, because you could put the experience counter on the Devastator. Yeah. You could put it on like gigantic stuff and make it even better. But at the same time, I feel like actually Tarkin's units, he ends up putting them on are largely units that are similar to like the stat lines Ray is putting them on. In how those decks typically are built. Now you get to do things like put counters on Cell Block Guard and Royal Guard and stuff, and that's pretty good until they get traitorous. I've done that a few times. But I think the big difference is that Ray's pool is heroism, villainy, no villainy, heroism instead. And I feel like there are a lot of units that you want to put with 2 or less power in heroism specifically.
Yes.
That you want to put these experience counters on that has sort of a bigger impact than it feels like it would. The one I'm going to show actually is not a heroism unit, but there are a number of heroism units that Ray, I think, is pretty cool with. Like, just straight up like R2D2, right? Is like both R2 and 3PO, but like doing that turn 1. Any 1-drops turn 1 are obviously really sweet.
Yeah.
But doing that sort of turn 1 R2D2, put a counter on, he's now a 2/5 that is going to attack and manipulate the top of your deck. That's like putting a shield on R2 with Luke is like cool, but making R2 like a threat and then a bigger threat next turn
that's different.
Like, I don't know. So like a lot of the ones you do that with in villainy they don't have much HP.
Right.
So they get +1, but they still die to like everything. Where in the heroism side, they tend to have more HP and lower attack. So you're kind of able to buff them the same amount, except they get to they don't die to as much stuff. They're not as easily countered, I feel like. So that's my big thing about Ray that I'm like, I think I'm actually a little more interested in this, not to mention the force tag on her. Enables lightsabers and cool stuff. The card I want to show off I looked at this and I started thinking, okay, I started this as a joke, right? I was like, oh man, it'd be funny. And then I was like, actually, I don't know. Is this playable? This might be. Moisture Farmer. Moisture Farmer is a 1-cost vigilance only unit with 0 attack and 4 HP fringe with Restore 2. Okay, like that's big. Restore 2 is a big number on a unit that you get to play out on turn 1. And like, granted, some games you're attacking and you have nothing to restore on turn 2, right?
Right.
However, when you make Moisture Farmer a 1/5 with Restore 2 on imagine I just show you a card and it's a 2-cost unit that's a 1/5 with Restore 2. Is that a playable card?
I think so.
I think so too.
I like to think so.
I think a 1/5 Restore 2 I think a 1/5 for 1 right away is like, that's a big, I don't know, like it's not playable quite there, but it's like that's a big stat line for 1 or for 2 cost. Sorry, for 2 cost.
Right.
That's still a big stat line for 2 cost. But when you have Restore 2 is actually a pretty valuable keyword on units. I'm kind of thinking
early in the game it's very strong too, because the aggro decks, what are they going to do? You're fogging them. They're just like, oh, cool. I guess I need to run units into this, and they likely have to run at least 2 units into it.
Because 5 is the big thing about this. Like you talked about the threshold, 2 to 3 is a big increase. That's an important increase.
Yes,
because that gets you into killing units rather than having to hit them twice.
Right.
But when all of these things with the low power also have a high HP, and then you increase that, so it's like, well, now you have to run multiple things and like possibly 3 things into this early just to deal with it. And Ray can put another counter on it and then another counter on. Like you can get the Moisture Farmer to be up to a 3/7 using Ray with Restore 2 if you want to. It's like, keep going. Sure. You haven't taken it out yet.
What are you going to do about it? You got to do something about it.
Because it's just from turn 2. It's restoring 2 every single turn, let alone when Ray drops, she restores 3 also and can put another counter on or whatever. Like, I don't know. I'm not saying, look, you're not hearing on Galactic Ambition that Moisture Farmer is the new meta
S tier
or anything.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that, but I'm saying like this is where I start looking at Rey and going like, when you actually think about how the plays work out, like I don't know, man. There's like it's kind of spicy. It's kind of spicy, a little bit of Tatooine spice.
And then your opponent uses removal on your Moisture Farmer, which I think is just a funny sentence.
Yeah, it was like sure.
Like I guess I'll
exactly.
power the dark side, your Moisture Farmer. You got me.
You got me. You got me. Fair enough. The Moisture Farmer has fallen to the power of the dark side.
You know. It's just like, it's really funny because I saw that as one of the comments on Facebook. They're like, "Oh, I'll just power the dark side, whatever unit you just." I'm like, "Great, thank you. You got me. You're playing the game. Congratulations."
Yeah.
That's one less I have to worry about later. On units that will actually be relevant into the mid to late game. But I think Rey is a very exciting card. I think I'm a little more excited about it just because I generally like to play low to the ground. And I think there's already so many insane cards we didn't even touch on, but like Clone Deserter is one that comes to mind. Like, oh my gosh, that card's already a house for one. It's going to be even better. I think it's really exciting. And especially we have a ton of spoiler season left to go. So there could be so much more stuff to go that will synergize with it well. So yeah, I think we kind of covered that card, and we won't even talk about the other stuff that people were talking about with it. We'll just move on. What's next on the list?
There are plenty.
Oh yeah.
Let's talk about Kylo Ren, Rash and Deadly.
Okay, cool. You can tell everybody about it because I wasn't on that page.
Okay, Kylo Ren is cool. Kylo Ren is a new leader. It's a rare leader, actually. Yeah. Aggression and villainy. Force and first order tags. We're getting those first order tags now. I love it. I'm excited. Action. Exhaust. Discard a card from your hand. Give a unit +2/+0 for this phase. Okay. We'll talk about that in a sec. Epic action. If you control 4 or more resources, this is another 4 deploy leader. You can deploy him. Kylo Ren on his unit side is a 5/4. This unit gets -1/-0 for each card in your hand. Okay, so I'll start out with our analysis here. I will not bury the lead and say I think Kylo Ren is a good leader. I think he's good. Like, good leader. And I don't mean fun. I mean I think he's good. And I think that's not always everyone's analysis of this card. I think the unit side is his weakest part.
Yeah, agreed.
The 5/4 with a detraction on him. Like, I think what Kylo Ren on his unit side is a to steal from Magic, but a lava axe, basically a threatened lava axe in reserve, meaning lava axe being a 5 damage spell. Just boom, does 5 damage to face. That's the end of the story, right? And I think what happens is you're going to get Kylo Ren up. There'll be some games where you're aggro, and you like dump, and then you go, and then turn 3, Kylo Ren attack, boom, like get you like super aggro. There will be some games where that's the thing, but that's actually not where my head is at with this card necessarily, because things have to really be set up right or whatever for that to line up. I think what you're maybe more often going to do with this, if I had to guess, is you're going to sit with that Kylo Ren deploy ready, and you're going to tell your opponent right now, like, okay, now are you going to hold up something to deal with this, or are you going to let me just bash for 5 and then figure out next turn? And your opponent is going to be in that situation where like Jason, you've held up a takedown for Iden. Like, that's a thing that you've done. You're like, there's the Iden. Okay, I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to hold up this takedown. I'm going to play coy. I'm going to, like, once they drop it, I'm going to get them. And sometimes they don't. Sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
And you're kind of like playing less optimally because you're trying to play around the leader drop. And as much as easy as it is to say, oh, he's, just like IG-80, he's just going to die when you drop him. Like, yes, sure. Like, I don't disagree with that. But as long as I'm getting my opponent to play around that and playing with that knowledge in mind, like an observant player thinking about the fact that they're playing around this, I can play into that.
Yeah.
And I think as far as Kylo's unit, that's what you're going to be doing. It's like, cool, keep up your resources. That's fine. I'm going to be bashing you with this other stuff while you're doing that. And if you get to the point where you have to pass because you're waiting for me to deploy, I'm going to pass also. I'm going to take initiative and let's go. I'll do it again next turn until you decide to do something. You don't have to deploy the Kylo. You don't have to until it's time, until it makes sense to. And while you're not deploying him, I think this leader side is being really underrated right now.
Yeah.
+2/+0 off of no resources, just discarding a card from your hand. This is treating your hand as always having every turn you have a card in it that is a tactical advantage, more or less. It's not quite, because that's a +2 HP as well, but it's just going, this turn, this thing can kill your leader now. +2/+0 is taking your 5 power thing and saying this now kills Boba Fett in one swing, right? Or your 3 power thing is like, this will now kill their unit Boba Fett in one swing. And that thing I think is really good. Now there's more to say about how to optimize the use of it, but I'll leave a little bit of analysis for you here, Jason. So go for it.
So I'm pretty much of the same camp. I think the leader side is crazy, like really crazy powerful. +1/+0 is a nice threshold. +2/+0 is a lot of bang for your buck. At the cost of one card, I could think of many scenarios. I'm like, I will discard a card if I could use this blank card in my hand in that sense and scribble on it and put +2/+0 to the unit to the end of turn. I'd absolutely do it
for free. Or zero cost thing.
That's the other thing. It doesn't cost you anything but exhausting the leader, which is insane. Like, it cost you the card. We know that, and that's fine. And you don't have to spend the extra resources. As an aggro player myself, this card checks a lot of boxes, but also is a sneaky card through the mid game as well. It's going to break a little bit of checkmate situations too. That extra +2/+0 will go a long way. As far as the unit side, I kind of was thinking the cat and mouse game, kind of like we already do with Iden and Sabine. There's a mini game inside the game of when to deploy. You want to deploy at the right time. If your opponent wants to sit there and hold the takedown, awesome. I will just continue to push into my unit that you're just letting you hit you in the face and threaten that. Or they finally make that decision. Cool. Now I'll dome you for 5 or 4, or even if you could deploy for 4 damage or even 3 damage, it's still fine.
Playing around that is the big thing that we're going to talk about. We're not ignoring the -1/-0 thing. I just want to be clear.
Yeah, no, there's going to be games where you're not going to hit Magical Christmas Land, and that's what the scenarios we're talking about. If you could get the Magical Christmas Land game where you're doming for 5 on turn 3, great. You're going to have those games. I think more often than not, at least with what we've seen so far. Again, we have plenty more cards to see. You're not going to have those games as more often than you're going to have to play a little bit longer. So I guess we could talk about the card we want to talk about with it, because it's a pretty easy one to bring in.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and bring that in. Well, I just want to say one more thing is that don't forget this +2/+0 you can put on a Sentinel too. That's
and wall out.
That's for at least one person out there that maybe unlocked something, because you pop that on your cell block guard or whatever, and suddenly things are scary. So, okay. So Kylo's TIE Silencer. This is a legendary from the set. It's a 2-cost legendary unit. What the heck?
Let's go.
It is a aggression, villainy, ruthlessly efficient is the tagline for whatever that matters. It is a 3 power, 2 HP, first order vehicle fighter. It looks badass, by the way. I mean,
it's awesome.
His ship is so cool. That ship design. Come on, man. Yeah, that is top tier. It's so cool. Action. If the action on the card, by the way, it's an action. If this unit was discarded from your hand or deck this phase, play it from your discard pile, paying its cost. So you can push this out for 2, put it out as a 3-2, which is totally
Sure.
like that's fine. That's a fine stat line for in fact, I'd say that's a good stat line for a space unit for 2. I'm fine with that.
For
I like
space
that.
unit, absolutely.
Yep. But as an action, if you've discarded it from your hand or deck this phase, I wonder how you could do that.
Yeah.
You can pitch it with Kylo, obviously, and then the next action, you can use its action from the discard pile to play it immediately, as you actually got the unit plus the +2/+0 that turn. That's, I don't know what to say about that. It's really good.
It's extremely good.
It's good.
Super good. I'll go as far as say it's excellent in a game where we're trying to do as many things as possible on our turn.
Yeah.
On our action. Action economy and the number one thing. This is awesome. You were probably going to play it anyway.
I don't think you need to be seeing this for Kylo to be good, though. I think some people were latching on right away. They're like, oh man, but like you got to get more. We need more silencer stuff to like stuff for Kylo to be good. So, and like,
what's crazy, Dan? Is there another card in the game that would discard cards off the top of my deck?
Yeah, your opponent can vigilance you.
Yeah,
and then you can be
surprise, dingus.
Thank you.
Thanks. Granted, the other 5 cards, that will still hurt.
That's cool,
but
too.
I immediately went to that in my friend group, like, oh man, take that, because we're the He-Man Vigilance Hater Club, now. But it's super cool rate. It looks awesome. It's thematic to Kylo, which I'm a sucker for that stuff. We need more of that. Put more. Give me thematic cards for our leaders. Yeah. Please keep doing that. Except calm down with the Boba Fett stuff. They can relax. But it's a super good rate. I think it's a solid unit stat line alone, which is good. It needed that. It still needed to be. I think if it was a 3-1, I would probably. It's still obviously very playable. But I would look at it down a little more. I'm glad it has 3 power. I think if it went a little lower in power, it might not be as great.
The 3-2 means nice. It kills an A-wing and lives.
Yes.
That's what you want. That's right. So good.
It's very well designed. It's simple. It's elegant, and I think it's going to do wonders with Kylo. But it's also still just a perfectly playable card. You don't have to just do that for that. I think it's just fine. I think it's good.
Yeah. Speaking of more thematic things, though, we have one more card that I want to talk about along with Kylo.
Yeah.
And I was hyped to see this because I know I didn't have to wait long. I'm surprised I didn't have to wait long, but I had wanted this card since they spoiled the game. You can actually go to the Star Wars Unlimited Discord and find my post where I was pretending we understood the game and had rules, and I was just like posting a deck list for review in the deck list channel, like right after the game came out, because like no one had deck lists, but they had a deck list channel. So I was like, here's my deck list for review. And I had a card in there that I called Somehow. That was the name of the card. The card was called Somehow, and I was like joking around, and I made that the effect was it brought Palpatine back into play from the discard pile. So somehow Palpatine returns. And here we have a card called Palpatine's Return.
Wow. You did
it's a 6-cost event, command, and villainy. So if you're playing this Kylo, you do want to be playing command also, which doesn't seem bad. Is command good? Command's okay, right?
Yeah, it's okay.
This is a force plan, and it has the effect, play a unit from your discard pile. It costs 6 less. If it's a force unit, it costs 8 less instead. Is there anyone, can you imagine anyone with 8 cost that's a force unit in villainy?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, obviously, everything just, like, lines up, right? It's all... It's almost like someone's designing it. It's crazy.
Yeah. Flavor-wise, it's incredible. It cracked me up immediately when I saw this card. And then I kind of got a little nervous because this card's really good.
This card is really good. Yeah. And I love that it works with Kylo, where Kylo can pitch Palpatine early on, because, of course, in The Rise of Skywalker, Kylo goes to Exegol and finds Palpatine there, and Palpatine explains. You watched it?
Yeah. I'm actually chugging along. We'll have to status up on that. I'm chugging along on my...
Wow, yeah. We'll have to do the next episode, because we talked too much about Gen Con in this one.
No, it's good.
Next episode, it will be a catch-up on Jason's Star Wars watching.
Yeah.
But yeah. Kylo can pitch your Palpatine, and then you can ramp yourself up or whatever, and then drop that Palpatine out of the discard pile at a discount, which is... Or as the kids like to say, a reanimator strategy.
Ooh. The kids say that?
Actually, that's what the boomers... No, that's what the boomers say. Yeah, that's a magic boomer thing to say. So
There's also another horrifying unit that we have yet to talk about that will pair very well with this card.
which is
I don't know. Vader seems to be good.
oh yeah, sure. Right. Vader's a force unit. Yeah, that
Vader's
seems okay.
a force unit, and getting him out a turn early seems fine, especially if we filter it early with Kylo. Just like, oh, I'll just save this for later, and that's very scary as well because Palpatine's going to be awesome to play off Palpatine's return because A, it's thematic, and B, you're going to blow up a good portion of the board. Vader's going to do the same thing and plus you a unit or 2 units. I think this card only gets better as more cards get printed. It's definitely one of the cards I'm most excited about. It's super cool, and all of the joking around that has come with this card being spoiled has been the biggest reason why I'm so excited for this card. People have taken the reins and ran with it, and it's been great.
Yeah, and this is another card too where I think what I found that I really like on card art is when it has a sort of a color profile to it, a specific like consistent color profile. So like this card is very blue toned across the background up to Jason has to pull it up now from the background to the Palpatine art in the front.
Yeah.
It's all like this blue tone to it. So when I see this hyperspace foil, it's going to pop, I think, a lot because it's going to have that full kind of consistent color tone to it. And I think it reminds me of Force Throw. Force Throw is another card that's like that. It's got a really blue tone to it, except for like a red lightsaber. Mm-hmm. And I saw that card at the LGS, and I was like, I need a hyperfoil. I'm like, buy that. I need that right now because it just looks so neat.
It's going to be neat.
I think this card is going to look
really sweet. Real quick, one last thing. We kind of talked about with Kylo, but I think this card, for me, I'm looking forward to playing it in blue, blue-green, because getting Count Dooku back.
Oh, yeah, Dooku. Nice.
Because Dooku, I think, is kind of slept on as a unit right now. I think because it's a whole other cycle of discussion, but I think Count Dooku is probably one of the most underrated cards in the entire game. Another way to be cheeky and sneaky with these cards, especially in a metagame where people are vigilancing you and stuff like that, having ways to reanimate really powerful cards that you wouldn't normally want to hardcast is really cool. And I think Count Dooku is one of those cards I would like to see to play with this card.
I agree with that too. And I also want to mention too, we're not just thinking of this from reanimator angles, but in a control mirror, the game often comes down to who can out attrition the opponent. Yeah. And Palpatine's return is not only a way to get like a discount on stuff and reanimate it, but it's a way just to, oh, you answered my Dooku. Well, guess what? He's back. You answered my Vader. He's back. Answer my Palpatine. He's back. Like,
and not only that, in the late game of those games too, we could talk about non-force units that you could bring back that are perfectly fine for paying the cost on the extra that you need to pay for the card.
Yeah. When the game goes late, remember, like people forget that with Home 1. With people are always like, oh, I've seen people like, well, how can you bring Wedge back with Home 1? And when that rules discussion comes up every time, like you just pay 2 more. It allows you to play whatever. It just gives you a discount on it.
Yeah, in blue green, I will gladly pay the extra to play an Avenger from my discard pile. There's 100%. No problem with that. So again, this card is filthy disgusting. Very exciting.
It's like it is. You're paying the 6 for the event, and you get the full 6 off, even if it's not a force unit. Yeah. It's literally just this card. Literally just says your discard pile is your hand for a character this turn. Like anything from there,
powerful, extremely
is fine.
Yeah, but yeah, super cool, super fun card.
Yep. Okay, so that was our discussion on Kylo and some other cards. Let's talk about everyone's favorite leader.
Oh,
Boba Fett.
Oh, good news is it's really easy to talk about. I think this time. This
is a different Boba Fett. Yeah,
it's the new one.
I think this is so cool. By the way, that they're immediately doing the Book of Boba Fett right after the regular Boba Fett. I'm just so giddy just for all these new Star Wars things showing up on my cards right now. Like right now, I didn't have to wait for them. I was afraid, like, oh man, but when are they going to get to Book of Boba Fett stuff or whatever? As we've talked before, Omni Star Wars nerd. I like everything. I like Star Wars. I want Star Wars injected in my veins. So I love that I'm getting all this stuff. this Boba Fett Daimyo. I don't know when they started. I don't know if it was in Book of Boba Fett or if in like some other novels they started referring to Jabba the Hutt and other like gang leaders on Tatooine as daimyos. It's like it's kind of funny. It's like to just grab that term and use it on Tatooine, but like I don't know. It's a vibe. I get it. I like it.
He definitely seems like one with the art. He's just posted up. Art is super sick.
He is posted up. It's pretty. It looks really cool. It's a really cool looking artwork. Boba Fett Daimyo is a command heroism leader, which makes sense. He's kind of he kind of turns a leaf after his time with the Tuskens, which is cool. Underworld tag has when you play a unit that has one or more keywords, which are things in red, you may exhaust this leader. If you do, give a friendly unit +1/+0 for this phase. Has epic action. If you control 6 or more resources, you may deploy this leader. He becomes a 4/7, which makes sense. I'm kept it the same.
That's great.
Each other friendly unit that has one or more keywords gets +1/+0. Jason, what is your take on Good Fett?
The immediate thing is they learn their lesson and let them deploy at 6. What the heck was that? No, instead of 5. It's very subtle, but I think that this card is extremely powerful. You can build your deck where all the cards you play get +1/+0. You can do that if you can keep your leader alive. You can have an anthem for your whole board. You've already met the condition by building the deck. I think that even on the leader side is perfectly fine. +1/+0 is great. You get to do it when you play it. You don't even have to use it as an action. So it also fits thematically into what he's doing, that he just gets to do it when you trigger the condition versus taking the turn to do it, which is kind of cool. And it's in the right color, I think, for this ability. I think it being a command card is perfect because that's where a majority of our overwhelm cards are coming from, which is great. And the other thing, too, that we've already talked about, this is going to work with Bounty, and it's going to work with Smuggle, as they are words in red.
Yep.
So while Bounty cards incentivize your opponent to kill them, you can use them to your advantage still as well because they're usually aggressively stat line, and you're just going to push that aggressive stat line even further or have a kind of a busted effect. So yeah, overall, it's super exciting card, super sweet. It's very subtle in its design. It's not anything crazy or flashy, but I think it definitely is going to be effective.
This is a very like thematic, like to the sorry, not to the thematics of Star Wars, but to the color pie, basically the what the different aspects are supposed to do. This card is telling you need to play units. Play the units, specifically the ones with keywords, but it wants you basically every turn to be jamming a unit with a keyword down, so that you can then buff either another unit or that unit that you just played, because of course ambush is a keyword. And in fact, I'm going to pull up right now. We're gonna look at modded Cohort, another spoiler card, and right out of Book of Boba Fett. We're keeping the theme here. She's on her little Vespa. You can complain about the Vespas. That's fine. It's cool. She is a 4-cost command heroism. I'm like, it always takes me a second. I'm like translating colors to the names in my brain. So command heroism, 2/4 underworld with ambush and raid 2. So she is effectively when she ambushes, she's a 4-cost ambush 4/4, which is actually better rate than, even as a common, that's a better rate than what you usually get. Usually our 4/4 ambushes, we usually have to pay 5/4. So that's pretty rad. But the way that, of course, these abilities work is Boba Fett's ability is a when played trigger. It's got a few more words than that, but it is when you play the unit, it triggers. As is ambush, which is when you play this unit. So when you play modded Cohort or any ambush unit with Boba Fett, you get to choose the order those triggers resolve in, which means you can choose to resolve Boba Fett's exhaust to choose to give that friendly unit +1/+0 and then resolve your ambush. So in the Boba Fett deck, she is a 4-cost ambush for 5, which is like, hey, nice Boba Fett disintegrator you played last turn. It would be a shame if I were to kill it and not die in return. Which is, I mean, that's good. Like that's pretty. By the way, I'm not saying Modern Cohort is like a
no
competitive card. I'm not sure, but there are a lot of cards that just have keywords slapped onto them. Things like Luke Skywalker Legendary, that you can just jam into this deck if you want to, and they will help you.
I don't mean
trigger your
the
plus
first card that came to mind was Red 3.
Oh yeah,
Red 3 with this card is gonna be gas, and that's really exciting. You know, we already like playing Red 3. Why not give all my units, +2/+0 when they're attacking, and then a static +1/+0? Like that's so good. Like there's so much cards that just have words on them in red.
Jason, one thing I've noticed in the set, you've got me thinking now too, is that set 1, Spark of Rebellion, had a lot of cards that were like really focused on. They keyed off of heroism and villainy aspects specifically. Yeah. And I've seen a lot less of that in Shadows of the Galaxy, which is appropriate because Shadows of the Galaxy isn't as much about who the good guys or the bad guys are. It's about just fighting for yourself in the shadows, right? So I keep thinking, I keep getting things like I'm comparing them to units from Shadows of the Galaxy, for leaders I'm comparing it to leaders from Spark of Rebellion. Oh my god, I can't talk. Right. And I keep thinking, well, you said you said Red 3, and I'm like, okay, but that's heroism, and I have to build with a bunch of heroism things. Right. I don't necessarily have to build that with Boba Fett in mind, and I can just jam in a bunch of like our small weenies with raid 1, raid 2 on them, and just play a rush strategy that way as well.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want. That's the cool thing about this, Put whatever you want.
The non-heroism, like I keep forgetting his name, the Cantina Brawler? Is that what it's called?
I think that's one you're talking about.
Cantina Braggart. Yeah, Cantina Braggart. You can play this little 1-drop 0/3 with raid 2, and just use that as like you can use that as your trigger for the turn you want to play an event or something. Just use that, boom, get my trigger on something, push some damage. I don't know. There's some things here, but I think you're right. The big thing is this +1/+0 is a threshold, upper, and it's also on the turn when you deploy Boba Fett, you can activate him, play something, activate him, get the +1/+0, then flip him, and then all your units still get that +1/+0 also. So you can get you can sort of compound your increase that way too, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, super sick, very fun.
So yeah, I'm a fan of that. And then the last leader, and because this podcast is getting pretty long, so we're going to talk about our last leader and then just hit a couple of cards. We had more cards to talk about. We'll probably just save them for the future instead. Yeah. But let's talk about Bossk, because Bossk is going to hit a whole other side of this. Oh, and man, this reminded me. I forgot about something I want to talk about with Kylo. I'm just going to mention it really fast. But
all right,
I would go back in time to. I was talking about Kylo, and I was going to mention. You want to have a low hand size to get to maximum power on the unit, right?
Yeah.
And I think people are really stuck on that with comparing it to Hellbent and Magic, where when you have a low hand size, you don't have a lot you can do on your turn. Smuggle.
Yep.
Just going to mic drop. You can have a low hand size. Pitch everything to Kylo. If you have a bunch of smuggle cards in your resources, you're still playing the game. And also it's a draw 2 game. And that means you always have stuff to do. It's I think Kylo's good. Okay, Bossk. Bossk is going to look at our bounty mechanics specifically. So Bossk, hunting his prey, is a villainy. Wait, I did it wrong. Aggression, villainy. I should have thought for a second. Aggression, villainy leader with action, exhaust. Deal 1 damage to a unit with a bounty. You may give it +1/+0 for this phase. That's an interesting ability. We'll talk about that in a sec. And then epic action, 5 or more resources to deploy. He deploys as a 4/6 underworld bounty hunter with, when you collect a bounty, you may collect that bounty again. Use this ability only once each round. Jason, Bossk thoughts?
I think that when I first saw this card, I immediately was like, wow, that's a really good stat line for a leader that deploys at 5. That's the first thing I thought. I was like, that's pretty good. Like, you're getting a 4/6. Like, this is great. So I saw that. I was like, well, I read it. And I was like, okay, let's talk about I don't want to put the horse before the carriage or anything like that. The leader side
That's what you want to do. Okay, never mind.
I don't know. Well, I don't want to get the carriage to go anywhere. Whatever. It's late. It's late.
Yeah.
The leader side is good. I think it's very fine. I think there's gaming to that. There's a lot that could be done with that. It's weird in a sense to me that it's free. You're freely dealing 1 point of damage conditionally to a unit that has bounty. So that's cool. It's extra push to your opponent's units. It's also kind of something you could do to your own stuff to push an extra, 1 point of damage or make a favorable trade or something like that. So I really don't know how to feel about it. I think it's fine. This ability, if you can build around it or get payoffs from your opponent, is insane. Most of the bounties so far have been incredible upside when you collect the bounty. Even as something as nuanced as just drawing a card, drawing 2 cards is crazy. Restoring twice is crazy. I mean, it's so good. It's so good. And the thing that calls out to me on it, it's when you collect a bounty. It's not when Bossk collects a bounty or where Bossk would defeat the unit. So it's anything. It's when you use a removal spell on something with a bounty. It's just you get to cash it in one more time. It's going to be dependent on how you build it with the bounty cards and how prevalent other bounty enemy units are. The enemy units we've seen so far, or the opposing units we've seen so far, there's some that are definitely going to see play. There are some that probably will not. And if they do, that would be very extreme. And then obviously the bounty upgrades that we can play are on our own deck. I think Bossk is probably the coolest leader of the bunch so far. Without a doubt. We haven't seen something like this where an ability where we get to trigger something twice and it's interacting with the brand new mechanic very well.
I think Bossk in the casual play scene is going to be a total menace.
Yeah,
I think
for sure.
I think like when you're talking to people playing the game casually, they're going to be like, my friend, he's got this Bossk deck. I can't beat it. Because and that's cool. It's like, it's very like, awesome. It's very thematic. It's very like, I'm going to bounty your stuff and I'm going to collect the bounties and they're going to do a lot of stuff. Now, I think competitively speaking, bounties are very telegraphed plays and there are higher level plays that will play around you getting to collect those bounties to the point where, so really what you're talking about with this mechanic is you're going to temporarily, go down in your viable plays. You're going to spend some resources now. You're going to lose a card from hand. And then you're putting an investment out there. You're like, okay, now later on, I'm going to collect this. I'm going to reap the reward. And Bossk is going to make the reward higher when he's flipped. But your opponent has so many like little things they can do around them. Like they can answer the leader, they can bounce the bounty unit, they can kill your things that would kill the bounty unit, they can play a sentinel potentially, and that might be all they needed to do because you only had attackers to get rid of it. They can do a lot of things that will just make it so that even if you do collect that bounty eventually, you will have spent more time lower on sort of available resources and plays where you haven't gotten that reward back from doing it, where it's going to be, I think, for competitive play, a little unreliable to be truly competitive. That's my first take on it. And the right cards could change my mind for sure. I think I agree. It's very fun. It's a really cool ability. Cool. I think I think people are going to play Twin Suns with Bossk and have a grand time. They're going to be like, yep, there's a bounty on his thing now. And like, I did 1 damage for you. Now you guys figure it out. Like, whatever. like, that's going to be hilarious. That's going to be super fun. I think Bossk at the Twin Suns table is something I'm always going to want to see because it's just going to make the game like a wild time. But if we're talking competitively, I don't like his odds quite as much, but I do think he's really fun.
Yeah, he's super. Like again, I think he's the coolest leader so far because it's very flavorful, and it's going to be a lot of fun. But yeah, who knows? Who knows? Again, it's a lot of moving parts. It's a lot of moving parts, and a lot depending on what your opponent's playing too. If you decide not to play a bunch of those moving parts.
Yeah, and also these decks get a little like they get a little bit of a balancing act because you have to have bounties, you have to have things that get rid of bounties, and you have to like draw the right pieces at the right time to get the and play around what your opponent's doing, and like it's tougher. It's a little tougher to build. But let's talk about a card that you probably will put in that deck.
Yeah,
if you want to. And we had a number of cards we could talk about with Bossk, but Jason's pick was Jango Fett, renowned bounty hunter, who is, and I believe Jason said just because he's just a good unit anyway.
Yeah, he's just good.
But you probably put him in the Bossk deck.
Yeah.
4 cost, aggression, villainy, 3/6, 3 power, 6 HP, underworld bounty hunter. While attacking a unit with a bounty, this unit gets +3/+0 and gains overwhelm. Yeah, that seems fine. I'll just play my 4 cost 6/6 overwhelm against bounty units. Fair. That's not his only ability. When this unit attacks and defeats a unit, draw a card. So I have a couple things that I want to put out right now, just rules-wise. Attacks and defeats a unit is different than completes an attack. Attacks and defeats a unit triggers even if Jango Fett dies in the exchange, because they are defeated simultaneously. He was in play when it happened, and you don't need to, normally for when you complete an attack, you need to move on to the next phase and have the unit still be in play. The next step, I think is the right term. But you don't have to do that here. So this Jango Fett, as long as you can get an attack off with him, even if he dies in the exchange, you will get a card back, which I think is one reason why Jason finds him quite appealing. But yeah, he's a card draw engine on a pretty hefty little body, takedown resilient, which is very cool. Mm-hmm. Talk about why you like this.
He's not resilient to fell the dragon.
No, he's not.
He's not. We didn't even talk about that. But I think this card checks so many boxes for me. It's a great rate. You're a little under the power curve for the cost, but the upside is incredible. Even just for if this card said 3/6 when it attacks and a unit is defeated, draw a card, is still really insane. And you're also getting this with a potential upside. We need to remember that there are also plenty of cards in aggression that buff power readily, extremely readily.
Kylo Ren.
Yeah, Kylo Ren. I was looking at immediately the Hotshot DL44 Blaster.
Oh, the Hotshot.
So I can just, there's so many different things that you'll be able to do to get an extra power threshold to push. Either way, on turn, if I'm playing this on turn 3, I'm completely fine with that. It's a very above rate toughness for that cost. So it's going to be very resilient. So you're going to be able to probably kill 1 to 2 units with this card over the stretch of a game, the stretch of an early game. So I think it's fantastic. It also looks super sick. I love the card itself.
The art is so good, dude.
So good.
This art is sick.
I think we would be remiss to not talk about this card just because I just think it's just super good in general. And it's going to find a lot of homes regardless if your opponent has a bounty on it or not. It's just icing on the cake. But again, that drawing a card text is super good, super sweet.
Yeah. Yep. He seems pretty cool. I'm excited to see if he has a place, and also excited just as things go, like Underworld and Bounty Hunter tags, the traits, like, are we going to get some more things that really like start to buff those up too? There's lots of options. So,
yeah.
Okay. So Jason, we had a bunch of these here, but
We'll just
because we're
rapid
already
fire.
very late into this. We're just gonna pick a few of them. Okay. And we're gonna go real fast on these.
All right, cool. Lightning round.
Lightning round. Here we go. Fell the Dragon. Fell the Dragon is a 4-cost vigilance tactic event with defeat a non-leader unit with 5 or more power. Jason, why is that good?
Units need to get off the table so that you
just
don't die.
Read the card.
Read the card. Reading the card tells you the card. I think it's very interesting that it says non-leader unit. And obviously, I think it's very well balanced to say non-leader unit as well. It's super sweet, a little bit narrow, but good. I think it's just fine.
It's a vanquish option if you. I mean, vanquish can kill anything for 1 more, any non-leader for 1 more, but that 1 less can be really important because that getting it out that turn before might help you hit a huge thing.
Or even in the later game, it kind of helps your resource game. Whereas maybe I need 5+4, now you need 4+4. So you're able to do cycle more plays. I think it's great. Personally, I feel like it's a card that might wind up in more sideboards than main builds, but it's definitely super viable. I like it.
It's also, importantly, it's a removal spell that has a picture of a Tusken Raider holding an egg.
Nice.
It's
breakfast.
Yeah,
sure.
That's awesome. All right, moving on. A new adventure. We have some stuff to say about this. 2-cost Gambit event. Cunning. So there's another payoff card for that. Return a non-leader unit that costs 6 or less to its owner's hand. Then its owner may play it for free.
I think this is the card in the set I'm most excited for. We're not going to talk a lot about it. There's a lot to say about this card. It's going to fully heal your card that's taken damage, which immediately comes to mind. A lot of these units in these cunning colors, have a lot of really insane when enter the field abilities.
Fett's Fire Spray.
Fett's Fire Spray
with this.
We could list a ton of cards, but this is the card I'm most excited for in the new set. I think it's insane, and it's definitely going to find some homes in some really annoying builds.
I think I was on a roller coaster about this card. I started off really high, and then I went a little lower. Really, just thinking it's. We had a friend who brought up Sneak Attack and was like,
sure,
Sneak Attack. He viewed them as similar cards, where Sneak Attack is a card that situationally is really good, but in practicality, the opponent's generally playing around things, and it's not always as useful. This is a similar style of thing where you need to have the thing in play. The opponent probably sees your cunning and is like, wow, that thing can be new adventured. I better kill it. And then they kill it. And then you go, where'd my thing go? And then you try not to cry. And then you cry a lot. But then I kind of went back and I'm like, yeah, but it's pretty sweet, and that's not going to happen all the time.
It's going to happen, and it's going to suck.
Yeah.
But that's the beauty of this game. It's gonna. I mean, we can pontificate whether if it's going to happen or not. Will Schrodinger's A New Adventure.
The classic riddle.
Yeah, the classic. But again, I'm really excited to play with this card, and then just you could list off a ton of units that you get a ton of when played ability value. It's really exciting.
I think ultimately where I landed on is that this is a solid card. I don't think it's busted because I think the play around it is pretty there. But I think when it works, man, it's and the biggest thing is Fett's Fire Spray. If you can't answer the Fett's Fire Spray right now, you're taking a lot of damage this turn.
And I think
it's going to be. It only costs 2, and you could do it multiple times. It's it's good. It's cool.
It's good.
Also, I want to mention that I think the lighting here on C-3PO in this artwork is this, dude. It looks like a picture. I don't know. This is a really good piece of artwork. I think this is a little understated, but get your glasses on.
Yeah, cool.
I just think that they
that hyperspace is going to look cool.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's gonna have that nice like I said, that big monotone kind of Tatooine background.
Yeah, I think it's gonna look pretty sweet.
It's gonna pop off.
Yep.
Okay. Oh man, we got there's so many. Okay, we'll talk about some of these later.
Quick.
We're just gonna fine. Finalizer.
Finalizer. So
11
finalizers.
cost.
Okay, good. You got it. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah. 11 cost command villainy. 11 first order vehicle capital ship. Overwhelm. When played, choose any number of friendly units. Each of those units captures an enemy non-leader unit in the same arena. Jason, you have a hot take. Go.
I think it's overrated. And I don't think the rate of return you're going to get on this card is very good. I think by this point of the game, you should be doing a lot more efficient things than trying to. If you have to capture more than 2 to 3 units with this card, I don't know how you're making it to this point to play this card. You're probably in a shell that has removal or better answers than Finalizer. I just think it's just not that great.
I agree. I think Finalizer is a fun, splashy card.
Yeah, it's super cool.
I think you can Galactic Ambition this, and maybe you won't die immediately, but you probably will.
Yeah, I think.
I agree. I think
I'd love to
ultimately,
be proven wrong.
The stage of the game where this is really good is the state of the game, I should say, where this is really good is not a good state to be in.
Right.
And I agree. It's like, how are you there? How is this game still going? What's going, like, why does each player have like 4 things in play?
Yeah.
And you have 11 resources and nobody's dead. Like, what's happening? I think it's really cool. I hope for it to be playable. I hope there's a bunch of like first order reduction cards or something where you
Who
can
knows?
like,
maybe we're missing a piece or two still.
Yep, we could be. But as it stands right now, if this were just injected in the current metagame, I would just play Devastator instead.
Yep, absolutely. All right.
Devastator.
I love that card.
Like really impacts the board. Like, for example, Devastator has Sentinel. Mm-hmm. And Devastator immediately nukes something no matter what else you have in play, and that thing can be anywhere. Like, the thing is, you're going to get these awkward turns where it's like, okay, next turn I'm going to play Finalizer, I'm going to capture everything in ground, and then you go, I'll take initiative so I can do it. And they go, cool, I'll kill your ground things with my ground things that I have because I have ground things and you have ground things. Like, it just doesn't like...
I feel like you should just captured everything.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, capture everything under it? If it did that?
Yeah.
Like, cool, that's great. But, like, the fact that you need to have the things in play to capture the things in play
it's
in the same arena, like, it just doesn't feel like it's going to line up very often.
No.
I agree. That's enough about that. We agree. We're on the same page about that. We could be wrong. Let us know in the comments down below. Let us know.
Nicely.
Poe Dameron, quick to improvise. 5 cost, aggression, heroism, 6/6 resistance tag. This has some of the most text I've seen on a card.
Yeah.
They had to use they used small font for this. This is from a scene. This is a legendary, by the way. It's from a scene that I really like in this movie, and that's people meme on it, and I like that about it. It's like a prequel meme. It's really fun. But anyway, on attack, discard up to 3 cards from your hand. Wait, this is on attack? I thought this was on play. Literally, I just realized. No. Discard up to 3 cards from your hand. For each card discarded this way, choose a different option. Deal 2 damage to unit or base, or defeat an upgrade, or an opponent discards a card from their hand. Jason, you had thoughts on this?
Freaking crazy. This card is extremely good. Extremely
crazy.
Good. Yes, you're losing resources from your hand, but think about all the fun things you've turned those cards in your hand to either 2 damage, defeating an upgrade, or taking a card out of your opponent's hand. Oops, I turned my mic off. I was so excited. All really reasonably great things to do with those cards that you would likely maybe pay. Paying 1 card to do 2 damage is great. There's also a card that people really didn't care too much for in set 1 that pairs really well with this card that you might.
We cared about it. I cared about it.
Yeah, I have a set. I hope other people do.
I've been playing. I'm
interested to watch. I'm interested to watch the price trajectory of Black One as the weeks go on.
Poe's X-Wing.
Yeah, which I think is super cool. This card's awesome. I can't believe you didn't know it was on attack.
I don't know why. I just assumed it was.
This card was on play. It was
one played, and I just
okay, but probably not too good.
My TCG player brain was on, so I wasn't reading. I was just guessing.
I think if it was on play, it'd still be super reasonable because you're going to get it no matter what. Whereas this is
you get it no matter what. But yeah, the fact that this is on attack means as long as Poe is out there, you're going to get to keep doing this, and that's it's a lot of as a 6/6. He's annoying to deal with already, and that's a lot of potential value. I I agree. The discard thing, it's like, again, like Kylo Ren, I think of this as turning those cards into these effects.
Yeah.
And the fact that people will want to sometimes sideboard confiscate against things tells me that all of these abilities are reasonable ones to have. The fact that you can go, okay, cool, I will defeat that lightsaber. I will defeat that entrenched on my on your Chirrut, Jason. Defeat the entrenched on your Chirrut.
Yay!
Aren't you excited? But yeah, like then also I'll make you go down a card in hand. Also, I'll deal 2 damage to this thing that like, yeah, he does so much. The art is really stellar here. I think this art's really good. It's a nice piece of artwork. It's going to look really cool. Hyperspace.
I'm really excited to play this in Command. When I have ECL and Timely Intervention and stuff like that. And just,
he plays with ECL so well.
It's going to be so good. Anyway,
it's awesome, so good with ECL. Card. And Command being the one where you can fill that hand up with cards to just pitch to value. Yeah. Very excited for Poe. I think he's going to be great. Given to your anger. 1 cost, event, innate, aggression, villainy. Deal 1 damage to an enemy unit. Its controller's next action this phase must be an attack action with that unit if able. It must attack a unit if able.
You want to talk about text? It's a lot of text there too. That was a word sandwich. This card is super duper nice. It's going to goad something into attacking one of your guys, which is cool. But it also takes your opponent's next action and turns it into that, which is, I think, the most exciting part of the card. You are going to warp the game into your favor in that regard, make your opponent sometimes take a turn off on doing something they would not have done, or running some unit into, unfortunately, some bad play. But I think the most exciting part is warping your opponent's next action. It's really cool to have something that does that.
The impact of that can't be overstated.
For one, that's really good.
A bunch of people are going to underrate this right away, and then they're going to have it played on them and be like, I lost the game because of that.
Yeah. Now I'm going to get cracked back with whatever I want to do.
Yeah, they're like, I was forced to suddenly attack my thing into a sentinel instead of playing the event I needed to play, and then they attacked with something else, and then things got out of control. Yeah, it's really sweet.
I was forced to attack with my sentinel into a bigger unit my opponent had. Now I lost the guy blocking. I mean, there's so much dumb stuff.
Yeah, the card's really good. I agree completely, and I think we'll move on to. Wait, no, that's the last one I think we did. We had some other ones, but that's the last one I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, the other ones are fine. You can read them.
The other ones I don't care about. This is that's a very cool card though. There are this set is amazing. This set is super cool. Has tons of really cool units. I love the themes that they're stretching to. I love the new shows. I love the bounty hunter stuff. I love the Bad Batch stuff. I love the sequel trilogy stuff. I thought we were just going to get, when we saw Rey and Kylo, I was like, I thought we were just going to get a little bit of Force Awakens. And then I'm like, nope, here's a bunch of stuff from Rise of Skywalker too. It's all over the place. So it's going to be really fun too. I like thinking about going into set 3 when we get a lot of prequel era stuff, and how just full of Star Wars we're already going to be feeling. Covering all these different these different eras, and mechanically the set's really fun, and I'm loving it. I'm loving Shadows of the Galaxy. Jason, how are you loving it?
I'm really excited for more Shadows of the Galaxy, and for everyone to think about. We still have so much more to get. We still have a while to go. You got to strap in. We still have a long while to go for this set to drop, but it's really exciting to get the spoilers out. Well, it's okay. It's not nothing to be sad about. We can be excited. We can build anticipation. You don't need to be bummed out about it. We got a lot to talk about.
I do want to say that I feel like I feel like maybe 4 months.
I was literally about to say, I think maybe a 4-month cycle is not the greatest.
Little long.
Especially with no real organized play right now, so there's no carrot to dangle or anything to chase.
Right.
But it's a conversation for another day.
I think the problem with that is that they're pretty locked in to this for a while.
This is not changing. So
it doesn't really help us to whine about wanting more cards sooner. But yeah, I mean, I'm ready for right now. I'm ready for the set drop. It's like we got just under 2 months.
Yeah, we got
still. So we're gonna be waiting, but when it finally comes, it's gonna be so much sweeter.
And think about all the cool stuff we can talk about until then, like more of these cards,
like more spoilers.
Yeah, which we'll probably be talking about very soon. And that being said, we haven't talked to you guys for a while, but we've been talking to you guys for a really long time today. We kind of,
yes,
I would say we owed it to you, but we don't like to have really long ones because I feel like, I start rambling a bit. But thank you guys so much for checking us out after our little bit of a break. We had a lot going on, but we're glad to be back. Thank you to everybody for checking out Galactic Ambition, part of the Maindeck podcast family. As always, thank you, everybody, and thank you, Dan, for having me to talk about Star Wars with you, even though I barely know what I'm talking about in the universe a lot of time, but I'll get there. I'm getting there.
You'll get there. You'll get there, buddy.
I'm working on it.
You got the moxie. You got the gumption. That's what matters.
I have the gumption. I have the chutzpah. But until next time, I'm Jason. He's Dan, and we'll see you soon. Not as long as last time. We're going to see you much sooner than last time.
2 weeks. 2 weeks. We'll be back. We'll be back.
We'll be back and better than ever. Have a good one. See you later.
Bye, everyone.
Be well. Take care.